Alright, well, yep, it's out. So, an update. Yeah, here's the motor, and I'm going to explain what happened. So, I don't know exactly what happened, but this is the best theory I could come up with, and it all starts with the stock ECU. So, when we were starting to get the car running, long story short, we were having a bunch of different little wiring things and trying to get the stock ECU going on a very, very modified harness. We ran into a couple issues with it running odd, as you guys know in previous videos, but essentially what happened was I hydrolocked cylinder 3 on its own gas. There is a little switch inside this ECU that failed. Each of these switches, there was 6 of them. The last one we pulled out, that controlled each injector. This last one was injector 3. That failed and left a completely open circuit to injector 3, so anytime the car was keyed on, that injector was wide open. So that was no good, and I had no idea that was happening. It didn't happen while the car was running, but like I said, we were trying to diagnose a couple things, and I went to start the car. It turned over just a little bit, and then bam, locked up tight. I thought it was a starter issue. And then I ended up pulling the plugs, found out cylinder 3 was plumb full of gas, and got it cleared, changed the oil, and everything was fine. Ran it for, I don't know, whatever it's been now, like 3 or 4 months. And the one Saturday I met up with a buddy of mine. I was helping him work on his SOAR, and we ran back to my place to get some tools, and it just let go. And I thought it was a W58, but it was the 1J. So essentially what happened was the rod broke and popped a nice little window in the block. The head so far appears to be savable, so I think what I'm going to do is pull the 2J, the GE block that I pulled out of the Lexus for the swap, and go 1.5J. So, but it's not going to be up and running for a while because I'm going to do things a little bit differently. I have a lot of stuff planned for it. I also have acquired a CD09 with a Autosport engineering adapter. So the CD09 is already cut. It's got a JZ bell housing on it, but I need to get the rest of the parts for the swap. So we'll get into this motor here. I'll show you guys the damage. Why isn't that working? Fucking idiots. Alright, so as you can see, the block is on the stand, upside down, and our nice little window that Rod 3 made us. Everything else, all the other cylinders, I mean, it turns over, if I can get enough of a good hold on it. I'm not strong enough. But everything turns over smooth. It beat up everything in here pretty good otherwise. The lower pan, well, not lower, upper and lower, it tore up pretty damn good. The windage tray is shot, broke the upper pan, the mount for the windage tray. Poked a couple nice holes in the bottom of the lower pan, and the trash was taken out, but the oil pickup looked like it had a bullet hole straight through it. But like I said, the head does appear to be good. The piston just barely kissed, so I'm in the process right now pulling the cylinder 3 valves out and cleaning them. What looks like happened is the exhaust valves were open when it happened or right after, because there was just a tiny bit of fine aluminum particulate from the piston blowing apart that got in the seats and smashed because I put a carb cleaner on both ends in the channels, and the exhaust valves were leaking just a little bit. So pulled them out. I'm gonna get the rest of that back together. Hopefully that should take care of it. But oh yeah, here's our fun bucket. Nope, wrong fun bucket. There it is. So here is what's left of the piston, and this all is stress cracked. I think if you pulled this apart a little bit, it would all just fall apart. Wrist pin, funny thing, I actually found this on the ground right where the motor blew up. I was off in the weeds. Top end of the rod. Bottom end of what's left of the rod. Snap both bolts off. There's a cap. Bearing. Let's see. Oh yeah, here's the heads, both the cap bolts. Oil squirter. Here's some more piston fun. Let's see, I thought there was something else fun in there. Oh, there's part of the block. I also found that on the road. Yeah, handful of other fun bits in there. But essentially, that is what happened. I think that when the motor locked itself, it compromised or slightly bent the rod enough to weaken it, but also not enough that it failed right away, because it gave literally no warning signs. Granted, I did pretty hard pulling first up to rev limiter, shifts in a second, started rolling on the throttle, probably about $4 grand, and it just sounded like somebody dumped a whole bucket of bolts out. There was no pop. Everything was good. It was running great. All the numbers were good. I looked back through the log, and there was just no warning. So I guess I just forge ahead here and go to the next step. Now it's just gonna be a slow process of going back together. I'm not putting the stock 1J turbo back on, nor the stock injectors. I'm gonna try and shoot right to my power goal. So it's obviously not gonna happen overnight, but I'm not gonna rush, and I'm trying to get a lot of stuff cleaned up. So it's gonna be a lot of time in the parts washer. I'd like to get the head vapor blasted, and I also might consider building a vapor blaster just for this. We'll see. But for right now, the parts cleaner is gonna have to suffice. Should be all right. But a lot of this stuff's I already started on this, but a lot of these aluminum pieces are just absolutely caked in dog shit. So let me get a lot of this going, and we'll see how it turns out. So these actually turned out fairly decent. Nice to just get some grease and 20-30 years of oil off all of this stuff. I still got to go back through, because I'm going to end up using the 1J oil pump, because it has the crank position sensor on it on the GE, because the GE doesn't have a crank position sensor. Yeah, I'm going to start diving in this head a little bit. And I know I got the exhaust valves done. I'm going to pull off the intake even though those weren't leaking, just for a peace of mind, just to know that they're good, and check them out. I'm going to try and get these springs, retainers back in. I absolutely suck at getting these retainers back in. They're such a bastard. I haven't worked with them a ton. But as anybody who has knows, they're tiny little bastards that need to die. I bet you none of this would have happened if I wouldn't have used a few butt connectors on my wiring harness. I mean, that's just what I've heard. But, you know, instead of soldering, which it's wild because, I mean, you connect crimp fittings to the end of the harness plug wires. So it's wild to me to think that some butt connectors on the wiring harness is just blasphemy. I don't know. Again, that's just what I've heard. Call me crazy. Alright, so I got the valves back in, and they still leak a little bit, so I think I'm going to lap the head. Hopefully that should take care of it. I think there's still just a little bit of shit in there on the head. But as far as future plans, I don't believe these guys are going to be going back in. I think I'm going to throw some 272s in, which might be a little overkill for my horsepower goal. Maybe some 264s. I wish, I think it's GSC. I wish they had their S1, which I think is a 269 cam. I wish they had that for the VVTi, but everything I found, I don't think they do. So more than likely I'll end up going with some 264s. I might do valve springs, couple other things, but for the head, I think that's it. And then the GE bottom end, I'm gonna go over it. I might put new main bearings in and rod bearings, but if they look good, I might just leave them. We'll see what plays out when I pop that motor open. Hopefully in probably the next video I'll get that motor in here and get it up on the stand, pull the head off and whatnot. But other than that, it's going to be a slower process. So we'll see what happens. I do also have to pull the CD09 apart. I bought it knowingly, had a 4th gear grind, so I'm probably going to order some synchros for it and split that case, go over that trans. That'll all be on future videos here. So yeah, stay tuned.